Yeah, I'm Father Gerald Cavanagh. I'm a Jesuit priest. I started teaching first at Wayne State University. I had gotten my Jesuit vocation at a secular school, so I didn't go to a Jesuit school with the permission of my superior at that time. Wayne State, I had gotten my degree in management and org behavior at Michigan State, and so I thought I'd be teaching that. But it turns out that they had just developed a new MBA program, and they had a course in business ethics and social business and society. They said, we need somebody to teach it. Looks as though you have the background. Well, I really, way back in those days, I didn't want to be pigeonholed as a biased holy guy. So I figured, do I want to do that? But then I thought, well, this is a great opportunity. This was 1970. So I began teaching it, and frankly, that's been such a blessing in my life. And then looking back, I recognize that, wow, it happened, I mean, I didn't totally plan it. I mean, it was an opportunity, and I took it. And it was just the beginning of, well, actually, at this point, the Social Issues Division of the Academy was even earlier than Society for Business Ethics, and that was just beginning. So I went to the first meetings and, became, pretty active in that as a youngster. What else did I do at the university? Well, then I was there for 9 years until 1970. I'm giving away my age when I give you these dates. In 1978, Paolo Catelli, who at that point was academic vice president at Santa Clara University, said, we're starting a chair of business ethics. We've got some money from Bank of America, Hewlett-Packard, Pacific Gas and Electric. We'd like you to be the first chair of the Dirksen Chair of Business Ethics at Santa Clara. Dirksen had been dean there for a long time and had been head of the Business School Accrediting Association, AACSB, so he was legendary at the time. I've been interested in and done some talks and papers on what can we do globally for business, and how can we get businesses together to agree that there's maybe some common norms that we could use. One of the early organizations on that was the Co-Roundtable for Business. And I got involved in that because Tom Bausch, who was head of AACSB, the Business School Accrediting Association, and dean at Marquette at the time, planned meetings all over the world. And so, I went to Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and Goa, India, and a bunch of other places. And it really, at about that time, the Co-Roundtable principles had just come out. And I've written, a good bit about that. And then, this was a group of executives from major firms, originally from the US and Japan. Then now it's expanded well beyond that, to write a code of ethics, if you will, benchmark principles for folks. And firms have used the Co-Roundtable principles as benchmarks. And I think they're quite good. And so I really tried to promote that. And then shortly after, the United Nations Global Compact with Business began, and that got much more publicity. And of course, the UN has the visibility. So, and so I've tried to support that and written on that and gone to conferences. You're going to interview Ollie Williams. Ollie has done a lot of work with the United Nations Global Compact, and he's invited me to a number of the conferences, and so I've done papers on that. And that's been such a dilemma, how we can get an even playing field for business firms around the world. That where there's bribery in some places, and and they don't even see the problem with that. And how can we make it fair, for everybody? The other major issue that's concerned me, and I haven't done enough on research on this, is trying to bring people into economies that are very poor, that are being left out. And that's true, all over the world. It's true in the US and developed countries, and even more so in developing countries. And of course, the the gap in income between countries and between people within countries is just staggering. It's getting some attention now, in our current, political milieu with the Democratic candidates, and I'm thankful for that because I think it should. I think it's unjust, to use our ethical terms, grossly unjust. And, I think it should be pointed out. And now the question is what we do about it, and that's more of a political question than I think a business ethics question, except, I always raise the question in class with my students, what's an adequate salary for a CEO or a high-level manager? And of course, they don't see any problem because they feel they're going to be the guy with the $100 million. Okay, so I lost on that one. But at least you try to get them thinking about it a little bit. Maybe later on, it'll come back to them and they'll say, yeah, okay, yeah, it's when they don't make their $100 million, maybe they'll say there's a gap, unfair gap. I mean, frankly, one of the things I fear is that we're getting into this hyper, internet scene where, I really feel bad that kids are walking across campus and they never look up. They don't talk to each other. They're always in their handhelds. And, they don't think, they don't reflect. This may get us off the subject, but one of the issues that I ask in class, you can't teach business ethics, I don't think, unless people are aware of what's going on out there in the world. And I ask, how do you get your news? Well, 20 years ago it was they'd read the papers and, well, now how do they get their news? It's Facebook and friends. You want to say, what? What's going to happen to our world and to any democracy? They're just not informed, and of course that's a way of reinforcing biases, and that's one of the problems we face now. And that would call for reflection. Well, the other thing that I've done, and it's in my American Business Values book, is I asked my students. I asked both the MBAs in different forms, MBAs and undergrads, to write a paper on their personal goals. What are their goals in career, in personal relationships, in leisure, education, spirituality, religion, a couple of other categories. And then just list them, but I don't necessarily want to see that, but I want you to write a paper on this. This gives you the foundation. First two paragraphs, what in your life has most influenced your goals? Your family, maybe somebody died, a grandparent or an uncle, or maybe you failed a course in high school. And did that force you to rethink your goals and your values? And then I ask them to write that up in a paper. And boy, I've had many students come back later and they say, boy, this really changed my goals. I realized that for the MBAers especially, that I'd been acting as if my career goals were the most important, but I realize now it's my family that's the most important thing for me. And so I've got to change the way I do things. Well, God bless. It's better to learn it now than before it's too late. And that sort of thing. And people much later on have also, come back and said it's a good thing. So I'm proud of that too. And that's been picked up in various ways by other folks in writing and in books. Yeah, that's a good question. Boy, I wish I had, where we're going in the future is there's so many tough issues coming down the pike. Artificial intelligence, globalization, poverty, widespread, the income gap. Those are huge issues. I think we've got to deal with them if we have any integrity as business ethics scholars. And I think if we continue on a integral path with some integrity, that we will deal with them. Frankly, I was delighted last night at the lecture, the woman from the World Bank, and Ollie Williams asked her, well, what about, working with the United Nations Global Compact? She says, we've been trying to do that for a long time. Let's us meet. Well, what a wonderful outcome. Here it was in public, in front of all of us. Yeah, so that's a good outcome, I would say. And something I think, now I don't know what's going to happen, but she's going to come up to New York when they're in session. So that's, she's serious about it, trying to eliminate corruption, and that's such a major problem, across the world. Artificial intelligence is a tough one. We've all read a lot about it and thought a lot about it, and I don't have any quick answers of how to deal with it, but we've got to deal with it. And actually, it's a model of technology itself. We're so adept at developing new technology. We put it in place before we think of what it means and what its applications are and how it's going to affect people. That's not always a good idea, and if it's not good, then you can sue them. Well, then it may be too late. A lot of people are hurt. The Europeans are more cautious on that, and I think they're smarter than we in the U.S. But artificial intelligence is a big one in terms of technology. Well, I hope we'll be able to deal with that.